Have you ever wondered what barbarism really means in the modern world? A simple yet profound question that challenges our preconceived notions about barbarism, a concept as dense and complex as the idea of culture itself. Most of us perceive barbarism as a primitive, uncivilized behavior, a relic of the past that has no place in our advanced, enlightened society. But is that all there is to it? We often find ourselves quick to label an act as barbaric, stamping it with a mark of shame and distancing ourselves from it. But are we just taking the easy way out, choosing comfort over a deeper understanding? We see the barbarian character in every situation that disturbs our peace, and we apply the stigma of barbarism to the most diverse socio-cultural elements. But is this not an oversimplification? The truth is, the concept of barbarism isn't as black and white as we might think. It's a subject that requires introspection, a willingness to challenge our perspectives, and an open mind to accept the uncomfortable. It's about understanding that the notion of barbarism has undergone significant changes, leading to its current depiction that is far removed from its traditional understanding. This alteration isn't just a random shift, it's an induced misunderstanding, a global misinterpretation that has resulted in acute distortions concerning its various aspects of manifestation, both socioculturally and in terms of barbarism's own axiological structure within the spectrum of human behavior. It's about understanding that this concept, as vast as it is, has been both extensively researched and not researched at all, depending on the breadth of the topic we're considering, and that's what we're here to explore. We're not just looking at barbarism as it was, but how it has morphed and evolved over time, how it has crystallized into new meanings, and how these axiological mutations have shaped our understanding of the term. We're here to understand that the term barbarism does not subscribe to the same parameters it once did, and that we are witnessing a different type of barbarism altogether. So let's embark on a journey to discover the evolution of barbarism. Let's challenge our perspectives, question our understanding, and delve deep into the layers of this complex concept. Let's uncover the Barbarus Novus, the new face of barbarism, and see why mutation is the main argument of this research. Because once we do, we can shed light upon the taboo of barbarism. The concept of barbarism has evolved significantly throughout history. You see, the term barbarian was originally used by the ancient Greeks to describe those who did not speak Greek and were thus considered outsiders. It was a label, a way to distinguish us from them, and it carried a sense of inferiority, of being uncivilized. As we moved into the Roman era, the concept of barbarism took on a more militaristic tone. The Romans used barbarian to refer to tribes and communities that resisted their imperial expansion. To them, these people were wild, uncultured, and a threat to the Roman civilization. So, barbarism became a term associated with violence and resistance, a definition that was entrenched during the Middle Ages in Europe. During the Middle Ages, barbarian was often used to describe the invading Vikings and Mongols. These groups were seen as savage and brutal, their violent raids and invasions terrifying the established societies. Yet it's interesting to note that these barbarians had their own rich cultures, complex social structures, and technological innovations. Then came the age of exploration. As European explorers ventured into new lands, they labeled the indigenous peoples they encountered as barbarians. Here, barbarism became a justification for colonization and exploitation. The indigenous peoples were seen as uncivilized, needing the civilizing influence of the Europeans. However, this perspective ignored the sophisticated societies, cultures, and knowledge systems these so-called barbarians had. The concept of barbarism continued to evolve through the Industrial Revolution and into the modern era. In the 20th century, it was often used to describe the horrific actions carried out during the World Wars. Here, barbarism was associated with inhumanity, with acts that defied the norms and values of civilized society. Yet, paradoxically, these acts were often committed by the very societies that considered themselves civilized. In contemporary times, the concept of barbarism is still in flux. It's often used to label acts of terrorism or violence, to describe behaviors or ideologies that are seen as threatening to societal order or norms. Yet just as in ancient times, who is considered a barbarian often depends on perspective. What one society or group sees as barbaric might be seen as justified or necessary by another. Throughout this journey, we can see how societal changes, cultural shifts, and historical events have influenced the concept of barbarism. It's a term that reflects not just individual actions, but societal values and norms. It's a way to define the other, to distinguish between us and them. And it's a concept that's been used to justify actions from imperial conquest to societal exclusion. Yet, it's important to remember that these definitions of barbarism are not fixed. They're shaped by the societies and cultures that use them, and they change as these societies and cultures evolve. For example, acts that were once seen as barbaric, like gladiatorial combat, are now considered abhorrent. Similarly, societies and groups that were once labeled as barbarians, like the Vikings or indigenous peoples, are now recognized for their cultural contributions and sophistication. Moreover, the concept of barbarism can also be a mirror, reflecting back to us our own fears, biases, and prejudices. It's a reminder that how we label and judge others often says more about us than it does about them. And it's a call to continually question and challenge our own definitions and perceptions. As we can see, the concept of barbarism is not fixed but constantly changing. It's a term that's evolved throughout history, shaped by societal transformations, cultural shifts, and historical events. And as we continue to evolve as a society, so too will our understanding of what it means to be a barbarian. But what does barbarism mean in today's world? It's an intriguing question, isn't it? The term barbarism has seen its fair share of transformations throughout history, molding itself to fit the narrative of different eras. Like a chameleon, it has changed its color to blend into the environment of varying societal and cultural norms. In the modern world, the concept of barbarism is not as straightforward as it once was, having evolved significantly from its ancient origins. In the past, the term barbarian was used to label those who were seen as uncivilized or savage, often by societies that considered themselves superior. It was a term used to alienate, to create a clear division between us and them. But today, this black and white understanding of barbarism has been blurred into a myriad of grays. In our contemporary world, barbarism is often associated with acts of extreme cruelty and inhumanity. However, it's important to note that it's not just about the act itself, but the context within which it occurs. For instance, an act considered barbaric in one culture might be seen as a traditional practice in another. This discrepancy between historical and contemporary perceptions of barbarism underscores the fluidity of this concept and its susceptibility to subjective interpretation. Moreover, modern societal and cultural changes have significantly influenced our understanding of what constitutes barbarism. With globalization, the world has become a melting pot of diverse cultures, traditions, and ideologies. This has led to a broadening of our perspectives, making us more tolerant of differences, but also more critical of practices that infringe upon basic human rights. In this context, barbarism is often seen as a violation of these rights. However, it's also crucial to highlight that this understanding of barbarism is not universal. Different societies and cultures have their own interpretations of what constitutes barbarism. Shaped by their unique historical experiences and cultural norms, what's considered barbaric in one society might not be viewed the same in another. This discrepancy further complicates our contemporary understanding of barbarism, making it a concept steeped in subjectivity. Furthermore, in today's digital age, the concept of barbarism has found a new arena. Cyberbullying, online harassment, and digital hate crimes are modern forms of barbarism that didn't exist in the past, but are equally destructive and harmful. These acts underscore the evolution of barbarism, showing how it has adapted to our changing world. In the realm of politics, too, the term barbarism has taken on new dimensions. It's often used to denounce acts of aggression, discrimination, and oppression. From the violation of human rights to the destruction of the environment, political actions that cause harm and suffering are often labeled as barbaric. However, it's important to note that these contemporary manifestations of barbarism are not universally accepted. They are subject to debate, reflecting the complex and multifaceted nature of this concept. What's clear, however, is that our understanding of barbarism is not static. It's a dynamic concept that evolves with societal and cultural changes, adapting to the times. In the end, the concept of barbarism serves as a mirror, reflecting our societal values and norms. It gives us a glimpse into our collective consciousness, revealing what we deem unacceptable and inhumane. As our society evolves, so too does our understanding of barbarism. It's a concept that is constantly being reshaped, redefined, and reconsidered, reflecting the changing tides of our world. So it's clear that our understanding of barbarism has evolved and continues to do so. Now let's introduce a new concept, Barbarus Novus. This term, Latin for new barbarian, signifies a remarkable shift in the perception of barbarism in our contemporary world. It's an innovative idea that encapsulates the evolution of the concept of barbarism, and it's crucial to our understanding of this topic. So what exactly does Barbarus Novus mean? It refers to a new form of barbarism, one that deviates from the traditional understanding of the term. It's not about the crude, violent acts of the past, but rather it's about the subtle and insidious forms of barbarism that pervade our modern society. This could be anything from social injustice to environmental neglect to the dehumanization that often accompanies technological advancement. This concept of Barbarus Novus underscores the idea that barbarism is not a static entity, but a dynamic one. It evolves and morphs in response to societal changes, taking on new forms that reflect the unique challenges and circumstances of each era. It's a concept that challenges us to rethink our understanding of barbarism, urging us to look beyond the obvious to recognize the more nuanced and often overlooked manifestations of this phenomenon. But why is this shift significant? Well, it forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that barbarism is not limited to the atrocities of the past or the actions of a select few. Instead, it's a pervasive force that can manifest in various aspects of our everyday lives. It's a concept that compels us to acknowledge that barbarism, in its new form, is not an external threat, but an internal one. It's a part of us, a reflection of our actions and choices as a society. Understanding Barbarus Novus means acknowledging that barbarism is not a relic of the past, but a reality of the present. It's about recognizing that the face of barbarism has changed, and it now wears a mask that is far more difficult to discern. In essence, Barbarus Novus represents a new understanding of barbarism in the modern world. It's a concept that challenges us to reflect on our actions, to question our assumptions, and to confront the realities of the world we live in. It's a catalyst for change, a call to action, and a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping the future of our society. So, what have we learned today? We've taken a deep dive into the concept of barbarism, tracing its evolution from its ancient roots to its present-day manifestations. We've seen how this concept has morphed and mutated over time, reflecting the changing values and attitudes of society. We've also introduced and explored the idea of Barbarus Novus, a new form of barbarism that is emerging in our contemporary world. This concept challenges our traditional understanding of barbarism and pushes us to consider how it may be shifting in response to modern socio-cultural phenomena. In this journey, we've seen that barbarism isn't a static, unchanging concept. Instead, it's a dynamic idea that evolves with our society and our values, constantly being redefined and reshaped. This fluidity, this constant evolution, is what makes the study of concepts like barbarism so fascinating and so important. Remember, our understanding of concepts like barbarism is constantly evolving, and it's important to keep questioning and exploring. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the heart of barbarism.